Good evening, everyone. Ryan O'Hara here with Ryan O'Hara on Sports, and in this episode, I'm here to talk about boxing. Guys, there's no secret that boxing struggles to not only generate new fans, but also retain old ones. And for that, one of those reasons is that we have a lot of cases, we have four champions per weight class. Can you imagine asking just a random fan, like pretend boxing doesn't exist for a moment, it's been cast to the side, and you ask guys to watch nothing but like hockey and baseball, and you ask him or her, hey, are there more, who are the other champions in the sport? Who are the champions from last year? They'll probably be like, what do you mean champions? Hockey, we have one champion. They hoist the Stanley Cup. In Major League Baseball, they lift the World Series championship trophy. What do you mean multiple champions? The Florida Panthers won the Cup last year. The Kings won the World... Not the Kings. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series. I'm out of it today. I had an allergic reaction earlier, so my brain is completely foggy as I make this video. But going back to what I was saying. In boxing, in a lot of cases, we have more than one champion per weight class. Sometimes four, sometimes more. Because some sanctioning bodies have multiple champions in one weight class. So you have the WBA, the WBO, the IBF, the WBC, and if you want to be fancy, the IBO, but most people don't consider them a legitimate sanctioning body, hence the term 4-belt era rather than 5-belt era. Now, why so many belts, you might ask? The easy answer is greed, but let's take a look at the top here. So we have the WBA, and before I get too deep into the woods here, every sanctioning body has their own rankings. They have mandatory fights that they implement for the most part. Sometimes they get a little bit flimsy and, backdoor deals. It's boxing, the wild, wild west. We all know that. But the super champion in the WBA here is a fancy way of saying this guy's the best, right? And then you have a regular title holder, which is not a world champion, but they like to pretend it is. So Kubrat Pulev, who's never won a world title, is their regular title holder. And in the WBC, of course, Usyk has 3 of the 4 titles. He was undisputed, but got stripped for Dubois Joshua. Ironically, both of them lost to Usyk at one point. But, boxing makes no sense. But going to the WBC, we have the interim champion, Ajit Kabayel, who just knocked out Zhili Zhang. I believe that's how you say his name. But he just knocked him out. So basically what this is saying is, per the WBC, at some point they are going to make a mandatory between Usyk and Kabayel. And off that, the WBO just ordered Usyk to fight Joseph Parker, who is their interim title holder. So he's probably going to have to fight him first, and then fight him, unless he retires at some point. So the IBF, typically, they are the best at quote-unquote abiding by their guidelines, following their rules. So if you can't fight your mandatory, they basically just take your title away, which I don't like the IBF because their rankings are generally very bad. They have made some of the worst mandatory fights in history. For example, Tyson Fury, before the whole thing with cocaine and alcohol and being almost 400 pounds, he had agreed to face Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch. That was the fight between the two best. Well, the IBF had some other fighters in their rankings by the name of Vyacheslav Glazkov, who Fury was supposed to fight. That was the mandatory. They are mandatory. And Charles Martin was moving up through the ranks. So they made a quote-unquote vacant title fight between Glazkov and Charles Martin. Well, Glazkov suffered a career-ending knee injury in the second round, and Martin won by default. Basically won a second-round TKO, and in his next fight fought Anthony Joshua, and that is what kickstarted the reign of the 2012 Olympic gold medalist out of London, England, Anthony Joshua. Bergerweight, I don't really want to talk about Bergerweight. So basically, they made an unnecessary extra division, named after some kid who saved his sister from a dog bite. That was it. That's why they created this new weight class. And Mauricio Suleiman's explanation was that, well, heavyweights are getting bigger, and this is gonna, improve competition. Well, Usyk was the undisputed cruiserweight champion. Yeah, I believe he walked into this next fight with Tyson Fury actually weighing under the Bridger weight limit, and he ended up outboxing and defeating one of the biggest and more talented heavyweight champions of this era, and Tyson Fury, who's 6'9", by the way, and walks around close to 300 something. Anyway, so cruiserweight actually has, well, again, we have 4 champions, not counting the Ring magazine, because the Ring magazine is a little different. I wanted to talk to you guys about that too. The Ring magazine is different. Like, they generally have good rankings, and they don't hand out their belt very often. They only hand it out when there's a clear number 1 fighter, or let's say they don't have a champion, and in order for that Ring magazine championship to be handed out, the number 1 fighter in their rankings has to fight the next closest guy, or the number 2 guy. It has to be number 1 versus number 2, something to that extent. So when you win the Ring magazine championship, what it's basically saying is you are the best. So for example, there is no Ring magazine champion at Bridgerweight. No one really cares. Usyk at heavyweight. Jai Opataya. Dimitri Bivol just beat Better BF for Undisputed. He's the best. Canelo is still the best at 168. No one is the best at middleweight. So the Ring magazine belt at middleweight is vacant because none of these guys have fought each other. Janibek has not fought Adamas. Adamas has not fought Irslandi Lara, and so on and so forth. So no one has the championship here. No one has the championship at 154. No one has the championship at 147 because all of these guys are not fighting each other. Now, Teofimo Lopez, he beat Josh Taylor at 140. He's the Ring champion. No one at 135. No one at 130. No one at 126. You have Inoue at 122. Nobody at 118. You have Jesse Bam Rodriguez, absolutely phenomenal fighter, fighting at 115 pounds. And you have no one at flyweight, no one at junior flyweight. And Oscar Collazo is the strawweight champion. So that's why I like the Ring magazine. It's the rest of these guys. We have way too many champions. And he's not, I guess he's a celebrity, but he's also a famous athlete. Damian Lillard, formerly of the Portland Trailblazers. I don't know who he plays for now. I don't really follow basketball that closely. But he is a massive boxing fan, but he has complained numerous times, like us, that there's way too many belts. It's way too confusing for the casual fan. Like, you walk up, like, again, you talk to a guy and you ask him, hey, how many champions you got in hockey? In the NHL, 1, the Stanley Cup champion. But in boxing, it's a free-for-all. Everyone's a champion because of greed. Because sanctioning bodies collect fees each time you win one of their belts, doesn't matter what belt it is. The WBA also has a gold title. Does gold mean first? No. Gold in the WBA world is 4th. You don't even get a freaking bronze with the gold title. You get nothing. And so that's why I'm on board with this new thing with Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White. Make all these sanctioning bodies your peons. Make the best fights. Have 1 champion per weight class. Again, make things more simple. What we have right now is way too complicated. That's the reason why UFC took off. So many fans were sick of boxing's political nonsense. That's why they switched to UFC. I'm not a big fan of the UFC product, but their business approach, I like that better. I like that much better than what we have now. I'm a purist. I just want to see the best fights. Doesn't matter what. So with that said, that's all I have for you guys tonight on this particular topic. I'm Ryan O'Hara for Ryan O'Hara on Sports, and we will see you again on the next episode.